The Middle East is an incredibly volatile region with a lot of long-standing tensions between various nations there. It's widely believed that should Iran become a nuclear power, it would destabilize the region, even more so than it already is. Here are the top 10 most dangerous things that could happen if Iran becomes a nuclear power. Welcome back to the channel. Number 10. Regional arms race. There's no doubt that if Iran was to develop a nuclear weapon, then this would kickstart a regional arms race. This is because other countries in the region would feel threatened by Iran's possession of such weapons, and they would feel compelled to try and acquire them for themselves to use as a deterrent against Iran or any other potential threats. For example, Saudi Arabia has long been rumored to be looking into developing their own nuclear weapons capabilities. And should Iran get the bomb, then expect the Saudis to accelerate their own program. Other countries like Egypt, Turkey, Israel, and even the United Arab Emirates would also be likely to want to develop their own nuclear weapons, which would cause even more tension in an already very volatile region. Number 9. Increased support for terrorism. Iran is known to be the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, providing funding, weapons, and training to numerous terrorist groups throughout the Middle East and beyond. If Iran becomes a nuclear power, it would likely embolden Iran to provide even more support to these groups, as they would now have a much more powerful bargaining chip to wield against the West and its allies. We've seen Iran use its support for Hezbollah as a way to exert influence over Lebanon and the surrounding regions. But with nuclear weapons, Iran would be able to exert much more influence and power. Additionally, the mere presence of nuclear weapons in the hands of a state sponsor of terrorism is a major red line that should not be crossed. Should Iran decide to provide one of its many allied terrorist groups with a nuclear weapon, or even just the know-how to build one, then this could lead to catastrophic consequences? No. 8. More assertive foreign policy. An Iranian nuclear program would likely lead to a more assertive foreign policy from Iran, which would lead to even more instability in the region. With nuclear weapons, Iran would feel far more confident in its ability to project power abroad. It may seek to do so through military interventionism in the region, potentially leading to open conflict with some of the countries there. As we mentioned before, a nuclear-armed Iran would likely spark a regional arms race, which would involve countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Israel, and others. This would further destabilize the region and make it even more dangerous. Additionally, Iran's support for terrorist groups throughout the region would likely increase, as Iran feels more confident in its own power. Number 7. Retaliation threat from Israel. Israel is widely believed to be the only country in the Middle East that possesses nuclear weapons. However, Israel neither confirms nor denies having nuclear weapons, which has led to a lot of speculation about the size and scope of their arsenal. What we do know is that Israel is believed to have developed their nuclear weapons in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and that they have conducted at least one nuclear test in the atmosphere. Now, if Iran were to develop their own nuclear weapons program, then this would likely provoke Israel to increase the size of its own arsenal, as it would no longer have sole possession of such weapons in the region. Furthermore, Israel may feel compelled to strike Iran's nuclear facilities if it believes that Iran poses a serious threat to its existence. This could lead to a devastating war between the two countries, which would result in the deaths of countless civilians. Number 6. Nuclear proliferation. If Iran is allowed to develop a nuclear weapons program, then this would set a very bad example for other countries in the region, who also want to develop their own nuclear weapons programs. This could lead to a proliferation of nuclear weapons in the Middle East, which would be a nightmare scenario for the entire world. Having nuclear weapons in the hands of unstable regimes is a dangerous thing. And having multiple countries in such close proximity to each other with these weapons would be catastrophic. Furthermore, if Iran were to sell the technology to other countries or non-state actors, then this could spread nuclear weapons even further, which would increase the risk of them being used. No. 5. Iranian internal conflict. Iran is currently ruled by a theocratic dictatorship, which severely restricts the rights of its citizens, and has been known to crack down on dissent violently. If Iran were to develop a nuclear weapons program, then this would likely lead to increased internal conflict within the country. Many of Iran's citizens are unhappy with their government and would likely oppose the development of such weapons, especially especially if it meant that the government would use their money and resources on this, rather than on improving the lives of ordinary Iranians. The Iranian government has been known to crack down on dissent in the past, so it's likely that they would do so even more heavily. If there was a large public outcry against the nuclear program, this could lead to a civil war within Iran, which would be disastrous for the country and the region as a whole. No, for attack on US and allies. Iran has long been hostile towards the United States and its allies in the region and has repeatedly threatened to destroy Israel. If Iran were to develop a nuclear weapons program, then this would increase the danger posed by these threats. As we all know, if Iran were to launch a nuclear attack against the US or its allies, then this would be a major international incident. It's unlikely that the US would retaliate with conventional weapons, but instead would likely use tactical nuclear weapons itself, which would lead to massive civilian casualties and destruction. Furthermore, Iran's support for terrorist groups throughout the region would likely increase if it had nuclear weapons, which means that it could provide these groups with nuclear weapons or the knowledge to build them. This would make any conflict between Iran and the US or its allies far more dangerous, as these groups could also be involved. 3. Turkish ambitions. Turkey is a NATO member and has close ties to the United States and its allies in the region. However, Turkey's President Erdogan has increasingly been acting in an erratic and unpredictable manner, which has led many to believe that he may be a potential threat. If Iran were to develop a nuclear weapons program, then this would likely embolden Erdogan to pursue his own nuclear weapons capabilities. Turkey has denied that it is seeking to develop nuclear weapons, but its actions have led many to believe otherwise. Furthermore, Turkey's close ties to Iran mean that it could also provide support to Iran's nuclear program, either knowingly or unknowingly. This could allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons faster and increase the risk of them being used. 2. Russian involvement. Russia has been involved in the Syrian civil war since 2015 and has carried out airstrikes against rebel forces in the country. Russia is also close to Iran and has provided it with military support in the past. If Iran were to develop a nuclear weapons program, then it's likely that Russia would be involved in one way or another. Russia has denied that it is helping Iran develop nuclear weapons, but this is disputed by Western intelligence agencies. Furthermore, Russia's involvement in Syria gives it a significant foothold in the Middle East, which it could use to further its own interests in the region. If Iran were to develop nuclear weapons, then this could lead to a wider conflict between Russia and the West, which would have global implications. 1. False flag attacks. A false flag attack is an attack carried out by one country or group, but is disguised to look like it was carried out by another country or group. These attacks are often used as a way to provoke a war between two countries. If Iran were to develop a nuclear weapons program, then it's likely that it would carry out false flag attacks against Western or Israeli targets in order to provoke them into attacking Iran. This could lead to a major international conflict and possibly even a nuclear war. Iran has been blamed for carrying out several false flag attacks against Western and Israeli targets in the past, including the 2016 bombing of a Swedish chemical warehouse that killed one person. Iran has denied involvement in the attack, but Western intelligence agencies believe that it was responsible. Furthermore, Iran's support for terrorist groups throughout the region means that it has the capability to carry out these types of attacks. This is why it is so important that we continue to monitor Iran's nuclear program closely and take all necessary measures to prevent it from developing nuclear weapons. Thank you for watching this video. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We hope that you enjoyed the video and learned something new. So if you did, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel.